Good evening, kind people, and welcome to another breakdown. I know I said, well, actually, last time I saw you guys, it was maybe 4 days ago? It was Saturday. Last week, FAMU was playing Alabama, no, my God, Mississippi Valley. And so, look, we're doing this on Thursday night this week because, Lord knows I need a traveling day. Tomorrow's that traveling day. And things, this has been a hectic week. I'm doing my part to, stay up on everything and stuff. So that's why this breakdown's going down on Thursday night. In the early half of Thursday night football. And while there aren't that many other good college games on tonight, plus I know this weekend's a big weekend too with what's going on in Jacksonville and what's going on in the Magic City Classic and things like that. So tonight, we're gonna break down FAMU and Grambling. Looking forward to it. This is a huge deal. Honestly, this is one of the games I've been waiting on for years. Honestly, I wasn't well. The Circle City Classic happened in Indianapolis in the Colts old stadium, and then of course all the years before that, it just never. I wasn't around for it, so I'm looking forward to this. This is the first time I'm going to get to see Grambling play. I think it's the first time a lot of people are going to get to see Grambling play. Two HBCU powerhouses. The school that Eddie Robinson built against the school Jay Gaither built. It's literally just a nuclear explosion of culture just coming together in Tallahassee this weekend, and it's a big deal. Grambling fans, they claim that they are undefeated in Tallahassee, so I mean, we'll see what happens, but you know how this goes. We're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about it. Grambling's players to watch, what to look for with Grambling. FAMU's players to watch, what to look for, what to expect from the FCS playoffs, and even episode 3 so far. I'm only halfway through episode 3, so I can only talk about what I've seen so far. But it's gonna be interesting. So the credits are next. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. It's gonna be a good one. So awesome. We're back. So a couple of interesting things to keep an eye on. There also are going to be some pretty high profile recruits at this game, honestly, because it's supposed to be who's list of speed coming to the hill. So primarily one of them is a commit 2-star. Zaire Riley will be in attendance for the game. He plays corner, great ball skills. So, and he's also the 200th best corner in the state of Florida, and the 300th best player in the state, according to 24/7 Sports. That came from the Rattler Pit on Instagram. So it's going to be interesting. So without further ado, also too, let's jump right into this. So here's the thing with Grambling. Last week they lost to Texas Southern 34-20. This is their first road trip to Tallahassee in 28 years. 28 years ago, it was 1993. These two haven't played each other since the 2000 Circle City Classic. It's been a long time. And they were supposed to play in 2001, but as we all remember, 9/11 happened, unfortunately. And so it's been such a long time. It's been 21 years since these two teams have played each other. It was, if a lot of you remember that 2000 Circle City Classic, it was Doug Williams as the head coach in his first tenure with Grambling, and then Billy Joe, who was coaching as well, and Grambling would eventually win that game 12-10. So it's interesting. Also, too, Grambling had the luxury of a bye week this past week, so they didn't play anybody. They played that went over Texas Southern was 2 weeks ago, so it's going to be interesting. They're going to be intrigued and hungry to get out on the field. I know they'll be more well rested. That's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because you're losing days on game speed. And I don't care what anyone says. Practice speed is not game speed. It's just not. It's really not. I'm sorry. That's just the truth. As well, too. Also, they forced 4 turnovers in their last game they played. They forced 4. Two of those turnovers, 2 of the 4 turnovers went back for touchdowns, which means honestly, their defense is really the heartbeat of their team, to be honest with you. And I would expect no less when they come into Tallahassee. They're going to come in with a pretty decent defense. They're already eliminated from the conference race. They got nothing to really fight for except playing spoiler. So you know what's at stake for them. They want to come out, they want to make a statement, and they want to continue their push to just, have a decent season. And for them, that's going to culminate at the Bayou Classic, which honestly I don't. Yeah, the heck, that game's a toss up. Honestly, their offense is struggling. So they outgamed Texas Southern 362 to 246. But they had 78 rushing yards last game, which was in total less than impressive. They had 78 rush yards, or no. The QB play had been at a low point in this offense. 3 interceptions by 2 different quarterbacks last week. One fumble, and they lost it. They played a penalty-free game, though, so they did basically everything right. They did the little things right, and I think that, coupled with a great defense, getting 2 turnovers for touchdowns, plus another 2 to set up the offense in great field position, helped them win that game. So Ramley's going to bring in a tough defense that's going to try to give their offense a very short field to work with. And honestly, for FAMU, it's up to this receiving core and this rushing attack to, stay consistent. Don't give in just because you've seen them force 4 turnovers. Be the one that wants to exploit this defense. If anything, they're going to come in. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. You've already seen the last 2 opponents really throw the kitchen sink at you. So expect the same thing this weekend. Players to watch for Grambling: Noah Bodden, 15 to 30, 156 passing yards, 2 interceptions. So it's rough. It's rough. As well, too, CJ Russell, 9 carries, 41 yards. Running back Elijah Walker, 7 carries, 32 yards, 1 touchdown. Wide receiver Greg White, 5 receptions, 73 yards. You like to see more production. I mean, Greg White seems like he'll be a pretty legit threat, and even Elijah Walker at running back. But Greg White leading the receivers with 75 receptions, 73 yards. It's impressive, but you'd like to see more there. And maybe that's just my NFL expectations kicking in and looking at those numbers constantly every day. But even also, too, defensive back Quincy Mitchell, 75-yard interception return for a touchdown. And even as well, he has 3 INTs on the season, so he leads the clubhouse for them with interceptions. So I don't want to say go away from somebody, but whoever lines up over him at receiver, you have to be on your A game as far as the double moves, creating space. Quarterback has to, and Rashawn McKay has to be able to fit it in those windows. Also, too, defensive back Myron Stewart, 70-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Again, this Grambling defense, they know how to create turnovers. They created 4 last week. 2 of them went back for touchdowns. DBs scored off of those turnovers for touchdowns. So it's going to be up to that FAMU front seven, or no, that FAMU front, the offensive line and the running backs and tight ends to pass protect and be on at the top of their A game. Recently, last week, felt like that wasn't their best performance, but the beauty of it is you're going back home to play a home game, the most important home game of the season. Not even the fact that it is homecoming, but it's also senior day as well, which honestly is quite interesting, but it's gonna make it even more emotional at the same time. So the home winning streak's on the line. This senior class doesn't want to be the class that they that they lost this home winning streak and lost on senior day, which I don't think will happen. But you don't want to be that team. Now the questions for Grambling are as follows: simply, who will Fobbs start at quarterback? Nick Bodden or Alden Clark? Because Alden Clark had a pretty decent game too. He didn't play as much and have as much of an impact as Nick Bodden, but Alden Clark, he came in and played decent. He had a turnover to his person too, given the three INTs that this offense had. But it's a question now of who do you start? Because I mean, you look at the numbers of Nick Bodden and you're just like not impressed. And you're just like, we can't afford to do that when we go play a high profile defense like FAMU and a team that's really driving to get to the playoffs. We can't do that against them. So now you may have to roll with the hot hand. This might be a game time decision. He might have already made his decision. Who knows? Will the defense take a page out of what Mississippi Valley did? Honestly, Mississippi Valley did as follows. Walked up defensive backs. Sorry, that's the ESPN update. They walked up their defensive backs, walked up linebackers, they sent blitzes, they got in McKay's face, and they created turnovers. Which honestly, too, if you look at what Jackson State did for the most part, they constantly created pressure, constantly got to McKay, suffocated him, which led to Junior Muratovich coming into the game. And honestly, it seems to work. But the running game for FAMU is what will also be helpful to get going. The other thing, too, is how do you find an offensive rhythm? So one-way Grambling, if they want to have a chance to win this game and play spoiler, how they find the momentum or even some sort of rhythm for their team to get going is honestly, it's going to start with playing the hot-handed quarterback. As I stated earlier, Nick Bolden or Alden Clark. Who do you trust, Broderick Fobbs? Who do you put in? That's the first key. The second key is honestly, if you saw the film, you saw FAMU give up a few deep balls last week. Try to maybe, a couple play action passes, which honestly, I don't think that this is really it is a pretty stout passing team, but if you can create separation, there is a chance. The running game will not be there, though, I don't think. This is probably, honestly, one of the best rushing defenses in the country. It's just not going to be there. As well, too, how motivated will they be to come in and pull off the upset? They're going to be extremely motivated. Why? Because it is homecoming, and I can tell you now, a team like Grambling, who carries so much tradition and such a winning culture, honestly, that's very disrespectful to them. If you go inside the locker room and inside their minds, that was the most disrespectful thing, and they've been sitting on this since the day FAMU came into the SWAC, because they were probably thinking that's something you don't do. How dare you do that? So they're going to come out pretty motivated, I think, just like everybody else has done for the most part, except Alabama State, and they're going to try to hit FAMU in the mouth. So get ready. Is their defense the reason they stay in games? Honestly, yes. Their defense is pretty good. They create turnovers. So, yeah, I would definitely say their defense is the reason that they do stay in games. So, and as long as their defense is constantly consistent, they're going to be able to, keep them in games, keep this close, and that's what they're going to want. Will they be able to establish the passing attack? Honestly, I wanted to say no coming into this tonight, but at the same time, you look at it and you see how FAMU gave up so many deep balls and the consistency that Mississippi Valley was able to have passing the ball, and it just makes you worry because you're like, I'm hoping they bounce back, but at the same time, you see that and you're like, oh dear, that kind of makes me worry for the road ahead. I'm hoping they bounce back, but at the same time, too, I would expect Grambling to try to take shots deep. I don't know at what point in the game they will, but they are going to try to take shots deep downfield, and they're going to test the secondary. Now, I don't know what you need to do. Maybe you can pull Marquise Bell out of the box and put him back at the free safety. Maybe bump Antoine Collier up or put him in the slot or something. But they're going to try to test you deep. There's going to be points in this game. They may come out and do it early just to see if you're awake, just to check. Because I guarantee you, they saw something in that Mississippi Valley film that they can use and try to exploit this week. The second, actually, yeah, because here's the thing: FAMU secondary gave up 304 passing yards. There you have it. 304 passing yards is not good against a team that honestly a lot of us, I'm sure, felt shouldn't have been on the field with FAMU. Because I definitely will say that I felt Mississippi Valley had no business being on the field with FAMU at all. At all. But now that brings us to FAMU. Last week, went over Mississippi Valley, as already stated. Felt like Mississippi Valley really shouldn't have been on the field with FAMU, but at some point, a win is a win in the end, and you're sitting pretty at 5-2. You're doing better, honestly, as I expected, better than a lot of people assumed you would be doing at this point in the SWAC. Because some told me some told me FAMU would be coming into this game at 5-2 anyway at this point in the season. It was just a matter of I felt that the loss would have been more so to Alabama A&M and not Jackson State, but flip them, still right on track. They played a lackluster game. I think honestly, and I think we can all agree, yeah, they looked ahead to this week. They looked ahead, I think. McKay may have played his worst game of the year outside of Jackson State. He had 2 turnovers. He outgained Mississippi Valley in total offensive yards. Bishop Bonnet's in place to have a 1,000-yard season. He's 353 yards away. I'm expecting, honestly, that he will have a 100-yard performance Saturday. Got to cut down on the penalties in a big way. They did. 6 penalties, 68 yards. That's 10 times better than what happened in Huntsville. That was 11 penalties for 189 yards. So they cut down on it in a big way. So honestly, the next week comes, get better. Do what Grambling did against Texas Southern. Cut down on the penalties even more. 1 penalty or no penalties. Play a perfect game if you can. The defense allowed 304 yards of total offense, as I stated earlier, and that does worry you for what's to come to Saturday. Hoping that's not repeated. I'm expecting this secondary to bounce back in a big way. The whole defense, honestly. They turned the ball over 4 times. 2 of them were by McKay. And then you had another 2, I believe, through special teams. The good news is, and this is a good omen as well to have, since 1994, Billy Joe's first year, FAMU is 20-6 on homecoming. So it's been really, FAMU doesn't lose homecoming often. If they do, it's a rare sight. I can honestly maybe point to 5 of those games that they lost, which I believe was 2008 Morgan State, 2011 to Howard, which that would mark the end of the Joe Taylor era. 2013 against Howard. I don't think Howard's ever been back for a homecoming since. 2014 against Norfolk State on a dumb play. And then, of course, A&T in 2017. So, I mean, honestly, that's just recent. 5 times, honestly, just in my lifetime. I've only seen them lose homecoming 5 times, which is honestly a rare sight. But enough about the history. Also, too, FAMU still alive for a potential FCS playoff at large bid, which honestly, I will tell you, I think FAMU's better than at least most of the teams in the bottom half of the top 25. I do believe that. Quarterback Rashawn McKay, 19 of 34, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Running back Bishop Bonnet, 19 carries, 140 yards. He's going to have a 1,000-yard season by the end of this. He's going to have a 1,000-yard season before it's said and done. Jamari Shareed, 8 receptions, 88 yards, four total touchdowns. 3 of them were touchdown receptions. 1 was the punt return. And honestly, I think he'll get another one this weekend. He'll have a punt return or a kick return touchdown. Defensive secondary as a whole allowed 215 yards. Can't let that happen this weekend. Savion Williams, 7 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss. Isaiah Land, 1 sack, 11 total on the season, 6 total tackles. I'm hoping Isaiah Land can have a breakout performance, especially against a team like this, which honestly I think is not – they're a decent passing team. They're not a strong running team, so there's going to be opportunities there for Isaiah Land. But the other thing, too, to consider is, as I stated, when FAMU played Alabama A&M, what's going to happen is teams start to see this as you have success, where they will leave an extra tight end or probably have a tackle over or an extra an extra tackle in the game. And they'll even have an extra running back in the game at certain points, or they'll do all 3 at different points in the game and try to chip you. So that might be where you might see a lack in sacks for Isaiah Land. Again, we said the NCAA record was, I believe it was 24, set by Terrell Suggs in 2002. So, I mean, it's still attainable. You've got 4 games left. A 20-sack season is still attainable. You could honestly, I mean, he would need 5 this week, 5 next week, or even really less than that, honestly, just to get 20 total for the season. But if you want to just wrap it up and have it said and done, heck, 5 this week would be nice. And then 5 next week against Southern would be nice too. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not possible, but it is possible. I've seen crazier happen before. I really have. So, I mean, I'm not going to say his chance at the sack record is dead, but it's still alive, and it's a huge possibility. Now for the questions. What needs to happen for McKay to become a more consistent passer? And honestly, look, I understand a lot of people were very upset with McKay last week and his decision making, but I mean, honestly, he's thrown 3 interceptions in 2 games, and the fact of the matter is, before that, he had been taking very, very good care of the football. And honestly, I mean, it's not often you find a quarterback that will go this long without throwing an interception. So I mean, honestly, he's consistent enough for the offense to win games, and he is a game manager. We even heard Willie Simmons say it in the little Willie Simmons show that he does on Facebook. Rashawn McKay needs to be a game manager for this offense to have success. And honestly, after saying that, he cut it loose and had a spectacular performance against Alabama State, and then a lackadaisical performance against Mississippi Valley. But again, defenses might show one look and then come to the game and show a completely different look. So, I mean, I'd expect the same thing to happen on Saturday. So I do think that if he can, study those mistakes, realize what the defense gave him, and go where he should have gone with his passes, I think there's a chance. Also, too, I mean, I wonder, having seen him run before already, I wonder how fast he really is if he can get an open space. And I think that we haven't seen that yet. So I'm curious to know, like, if he were to run, if the opportunity presented itself, how much damage could he do? Because if he can do a certain amount of damage, I mean, hey, let him run it. Just let him run it. Because why not? And if you start running it, that's going to make the defense respect you more, which is going to open up passing lanes, which could be beneficial to him. But again, I mean, I think that might be a confidence thing, and everything else like that. And I'm not, I don't coach. I just talk about it. That's all I can say. But I think he will bounce back. Honestly, I would hope that there's not a 2 interception performance. Again, I think the beauty of being back home for such a big game will be a motivating factor for him to play well. Plus, I believe Jalen McLeod's coming back from an injury. I'm hoping Xavier Smith is back and active this week. So there's a lot of factors there that are going to help out. How does the defense bounce back? Honestly, this is a golden opportunity for your defense to bounce back. The beautiful thing about defense is you get another week, and you can honestly just learn from the mistakes and stuff, and you can correct this right away. Or it was just probably a miscommunication in coverage. So that's very correctable. Or it probably just was the wrong personnel on the field. So it is fixable if done right. I think the defensive secondary does bounce back. And I do think that we're going to see this defense get some turnovers, maybe some pick sixes, hopefully, because I mean they're long overdue. We haven't seen a defensive touchdown since golly, we haven't seen a defensive touchdown I think since the Fort Valley game. So I think we are long overdue. Why is it important not to come out too excited for this game? Honestly, I think we can all say in the past couple of years, in the past 2 decades, we've seen FAMU teams come out too excited for homecoming or too nervous for homecoming, and they start too slow, or they come out too jittery, and they don't make the plays that they're accustomed to making. I.e., dude, does anybody remember? I want to say 2011, where FAMU as a whole just got too comfortable with the lead and then sat on it and blew it to Howard. That's one example of, getting too lax or just being too nervous. I can remember homecoming 2015 against Delaware State. They hadn't won a game, and they were so nervous about just coming out and making the right plays at the right times. And I think it took a while for that offense to kind of really get going and everything. So, I mean, we've seen them come out too flat before. We've seen them come out too excited. I think what someone said on Twitter was, Coach Billy Joe used to take the team out of town and take them to Quincy for homecoming weekend, which honestly probably wouldn't be a bad idea, to be honest with you. It probably would not be a bad idea, but I don't think they'll do that. But I think honestly, if you just come out, just play your game, you're back at home, you're in your comfort zone. Don't be too amped up and stuff, because you're basically the star attraction and not the homecoming concert after the game. That's really not the star attraction, but just come out, play your game, just be relaxed and take full advantage of what Grambling gives you and exploit it. And don't be intimidated by that G on the side of the helmet and what it stands for. Don't be intimidated by any of that. Well, the Grambling defense poses a formidable challenge. Honestly, yeah, they will. It's not going to be a cakewalk. They will, despite everything I just said. But Grambling's defense is not going to be a cakewalk. They're good at forcing turnovers. Obviously, they forced 4 their last game, so they're going to pose a threat. But is the offense up to the challenge? I think they are. If Bishop Bonnet can get in a groove sooner, that's very beneficial. The fact they have Jalen McLeod coming back, very beneficial, because now it's not just a 1-2 punch. It's more like a 1-2-3 punch. And then honestly, too, at some point we might see DeAndre Francis. And even at some point, too, we might see Eddie Tillman. So, I mean, you might see 5 running backs tomorrow, on top of the fact that you might see Cameron Sapp as well, who is the running quarterback, but could also throw it, as we all have seen and we're surprised to see. So it's very much possible. What did we learn from episode 3 of the Why Not Us docuseries? Honestly, just me getting halfway through this thing and seeing it, I'm liking what I see so far. I mean, honestly, they came out, they put the Jackson State game to bed, and they bounced back. And that's all you can really it's all you really want. And then I think honestly too, the fact that from what I've seen so far, I'm not through with this episode yet, but just seeing the way Coach Simmons addresses the locker room and says, guys, we're going with Junior Muratovich this week. The fact that McKay he still manages to stick around and stay positive and prepare as if he is quarterback one, and if he eventually would be quarterback one and get thrown into that game, says a lot. The kid doesn't quit. The guy's going to continue to fight. And I think that's something that gets overlooked a lot with a lot of people saying, I've seen enough of him and we need to hit the transfer portal and all this stuff, which I mean, honestly, the way college football is going, you still should hit the transfer portal and go get somebody, and disregard my statement when I say you should take a look at Spencer Rattler, who's at Oklahoma, as a potential person that could come in as a transfer. I probably would not touch him, to be honest, after the footage that I've seen come out on him of him being a selfish player, which could pose to be a poison to this locker room and what it can be for years to come under Willie Simmons. So I probably wouldn't touch Spencer Rattler. I'd probably touch the transfer quarterback that I out of Tennessee. I forget his name, but he's number 15 for Tennessee. He transferred out. Or I would touch the kid that you guys mentioned from Temple, or even the other transfer you guys mentioned from Baylor. So the portal is going to be filled up with more quarterbacks than just those four guys, honestly, in the offseason. So get ready for that. But honestly, as it stands right now, I mean, honestly, I'd probably still ride with McKay. He's probably still the hot hand, probably still most consistent guy on the practice field and the game field. So sorry to say it to some of y'all that want McKay gone, but he's probably not going anywhere. He's probably not for the rest of the regular season, at least, and probably not for the playoffs either if FAMU gets in. So I'm just gonna leave that at that and let y'all debate that amongst yourselves. So keys to victory before we close this out tonight. Keys to victory as follows. I think honestly, you got to start fast. The beautiful thing about it is you have a guy that can return kicks and punts that will allow you to do that and give you a spark and potentially give you a short field in Jamar Shareed. Consistent quarterback play, of course. I think Rashawn McKay's passing abilities, when they do start to pass the ball, will play a heavy factor in whether FAMU can win this game or not. Because you got to be able to run the ball to open, set up the pass. And when you do set up the pass, you got to be able to connect. So I think if he can connect and make those big plays, I think that consistent quarterback play is going to go a long way. And then also, too, limit the explosive plays for Grambling. Grambling had 362 yards last week. They had 41 carries all total, I believe it was 78 rushing yards in that game. But honestly, you got to limit the explosive plays in the rushing attack. I think that FAMU's top-ranked rushing defense will. You got to limit the explosive plays in the passing game as well, too. I think FAMU secondary will bounce back in a big way. So I think I'm gonna leave it on that note. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited for this game, honestly. I know it doesn't show right now because, I mean, again, I'm a grad student. I'm in the middle of studying. So life is hitting me right now. But I'm looking forward to, getting on the road tomorrow and traveling for this as soon as I get out of class and getting to Tallahassee. I'm long overdue for some chicken wings or some snapper and a giant lemonade cup. I'm dying to get that on my hands right now. But final score for this one, I'm predicting I got FAMU winning 34-24. I know some people are thinking, it's going to be 51-7 and stuff, but guys, we have a game manager playing quarterback. This offense is probably not going to put up 50 points. I'm sorry to say that. The team as a whole, according to the NCAA website, is averaging 25 points a game. So 51 points would be out of the ordinary. I would not be mad if that happened, but I'm also a realist. I'm very realistic when it comes to certain things like this. And I mean, heck, I'm a Bucks fan, as you can see behind me. So I'm realistic about the Bucks too. So the truth is the truth. So I'm gonna ride with 34-24 as the final score. If it does turn into a 50-point blowout, I'll put my foot in my mouth and I'll be like, you know what? I'm happy. I'm just as much happy. I'm even more ecstatic that that happened. I'd be cool with it being 52-24 than 34-24 and winning the game by 10. So heck, whether it's a victory by 30 or a victory by just 10, I'm happy to get the win. Hopefully it doesn't affect the playoff push at all as far as the point system goes and stuff. So I mean, we'll see what happens. But with that, folks, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this. As well. You can always refer back to this now since it's already now been recorded. So if you're on your way to the game and you're watching this, and if it is Saturday as you watch this, I hope I was able to break this down perfectly for you. And honestly, I mean, if you're on your way to Tallahassee too, give this a listen. You can talk about it, debate, leave a comment down in the comment section. As well too, hope stay safe this weekend. Don't do anything you might regret this weekend, honestly. Enjoy the concert, enjoy the festivities and stuff. I'm pretty sure is the convocation tomorrow, probably was today, but enjoy all those festivities and stuff. Be mindful, the forecast is calling for cold weather. The low is supposed to be 50. The high is supposed to be 69 or 68 on Saturday. So be mindful of that too. Dress comfortably. But as always, stay safe. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Instagram at Throw Flags, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube is Penalty Talk. Like, share, and subscribe as always. Yeah, I believe I already said Facebook. So yeah, stay safe, stay blessed, have a happy homecoming week and weekend. We'll try to talk to you after the game, depending on when I get Wi-Fi. So, because I know last time in 2019, last time I checked, the Wi-Fi wasn't the best. So we're going to see what happens. It might be an hour after the game. It might be 2 hours. Heck, it might even be 3 hours after the game. So as always, stay safe, stay blessed. We'll see you next time.